people and seasoned veterans. Mayor Amor Mottley. We can do it. Mayor Amor Mottley. The boss lady has arrived. The next phoenix. She will take us through. She will take us home. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Amor Mottley. Yeah, man.
They don't mind. I want you to queue up for me at the end. The one I spoke to you about last night. Y'all sure that we in February? Y'all sure? Because you know I am going to have a problem. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to have a problem with you all in October. Because you all are setting some records for out of season. That when this party comes together in its highest decision-making function, you can't be bringing the numbers that you were bringing before. Because every Sunday night in these school halls now we are exceeding numbers that we see in annual conference at the height. And there are as many people outside as there are inside the hall. I want to thank and salute my colleagues who have spoken this evening from this platform. And I really do, because this evening and from here on in, we will come to see the difference between what we offer and what they have on show. And I use the word offer because we do it in all humility. And we do it because we understand that it is about service. We are not at Leicester Vaughan by accident this evening. We're at Leicester Vaughan on purpose. And to be able to show Barbadians the contrast. We're at Leicester Vaughan because in every generation, there is always one who hits the gold standard of representation. In the generation of Grantley Adams, in the generation of Errol Barrow, in the generation of Tom Adams, there's always somebody who, not us politicians, but the people of Barbados say, have reached that gold standard when it comes to representation. And I am not frightened to say that I belong to a generation where Cynthia Ford has outstripped every other member of Parliament when it comes to representation of her people. And it is that contrast that you have before you this evening as compared to perhaps what is for me one of the saddest moments in public office as a Barbadian. I don't take delight in belonging to a class of people who have done their best to bring disrepute to the class. I really don't. I don't take delight at the fact that I have had to work with others, to see some things and to read some things and to hear some things that shock me. And that shocked me because a country that is 50 years old ought to know better and ought not to tolerate this kind of behavior. I came to you last week and I told you, measure my back. It is broad. Donville clearly didn't get the message. But you see, he wanted to send a message too. And he knows that if I stood up on Friday and I simply said, I am commanded to lay, or I give notice rather, to the Public Accounts Committee report 2013-2018 and sat down, a whole bunch of people might not have heard what I said in those 7 or 8 seconds. He knew that his interest lies in the full ventilation of that report. And he best will tell the country why he has chosen to make noise about a report where the rules of Parliament are so clear, and to take his colleagues, including the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, down a line that is so amazing. You know, when you want somebody to know about something, what you do? Make a lot of noise, make a lot of mess. All of a sudden, the body that wasn't watching that corner, now everybody wants to, wait, what's going on over there? What's happening over there? And what we now have is a clear example of everybody wanting to know what is in that report. Well, I have come here tonight to tell you, and I thank Dale Marshall for speaking to process. But the process has not ended. And I have come to tell you that the Speaker of the House does not have a discretion in these matters, because the rules of the House of Assembly make it clear. And I am not talking from memory now. I am talking from the rules. Rules Order 62 of the Standing Orders. Rule number 2, a report of a special report, and this is under select committees. A report or a special report together with the minutes of proceedings of a select committee shall be presented to the House by the chairman. Presented to the House by the right. Or other member deputed by the committee. And listen to this now. And shall be ordered. Shall, not may, shall be ordered to lie upon the table, that's the table of the clerks, and be printed without question put. Do you understand what those rules say? That there's no debate, that there is no question about this thing being printed, and that the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker, as they are in the chair, has a duty to make a copy for all of you in this country. Is that clear? Instead of that, the Deputy Speaker came back and told you that what happened when I presented it, ignore that. Forget about that. Well, I don't know if they do it so in St. Lucia, but they don't do it so in Barbados. And I know that Donville came back in today's paper only to tell the country, y'all better get some pressure to find out what is in that report. Because everything he said in the paper today, he said on Friday. And everything he said on Friday, we answered on Friday. And I will only leave these emails for you because these emails show. I don't know what Patriot BB2 at Gmail stands for. That is Don Villinis, I'm told. I don't know who is being a patriot to. But every one of them were given notice February 6th of the meeting. February 8th, the draft report. No, I'm not getting into the discussion tonight because I want you to understand something. No one or nobody is going to rush me to discuss what I have to discuss. And I want the people of Barbados to be fully in tune with what is in this report before we start to discuss the contents of this report. The people of Barbados will want to know, who is it? Who could in 2013 be a minister of government to tell a lie on a cabinet decision of this country's highest executive decision-making body? Who could be in a cabinet and tell a lie about what the cabinet decided? And could that possibly have happened days before the last general elections? Could that possibly come from a minister of the crown? We're not talking about a vagrant. Vagrants don't tell lies. We're talking about somebody who has sworn to uphold the law. Could that person have written a chairman and told them something completely different from what the cabinet decision came out and said happened 3 weeks later? Who is the minister? Who is the minister that sought to terminate a contract for millions of dollars, saying that the cabinet said it should be done? Who is the minister that purported to sign and say that this contract at the grotto can go the month before the election was called, but signed without the Attorney General or the Solicitor General signing off, but signed without the cabinet agreeing that the contract could move from $18 million to $27.8 million, an increase of almost $10 million before an election is to be called? Who is that minister? Is that the same minister as the first minister I asked you about? Or is that another minister? And who is the chairman that is still a chairman tonight to receive these letters, to tell them that a contract should be signed to give away over 2,000 housing lots 3 days before an election in this country? Who is that chairman? Is that chairman now responsible for more money tonight than he was 5 years ago when he was at National Housing? Could that chairman be now managing the taxpayers' money to the tune of more than double that you had him managing on the eve of the last election? Who, pray tell, is that chairman? Who, pray tell, is a minister that feels that he knows about valuing land more than valuers of land? Has the government lost money as a result of these ministers not taking the proper professional advice? Has the government had to pay out interest simply because practical completion dates are finished and know full well that they can't move in for months, but the clock start running on the interest to be paid? How much hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest did we have to pay at Valerie? How much hundreds of thousands or millions did we have to pay at Grotto? Do you understand that I am not ready to talk about this yet? Do you understand that when I talk about it, it is because you have read, you have ingested, and you have studied what went on in this our fair land? And Frundell Stewart directed a question to my shadow Attorney General a few months ago. I didn't run and break the line. I didn't jump up and say, Frundell, stop cursing Dale. Stop telling Dale, bring the evidence. I waited my time. You people have to get to know me, you know. You people have to get to know me. I don't go slashing outside the off stamp. I know how to keep. And I know how to wait for the perfect time. And I say tonight, Frundell, as you travel to Haiti, as you forget about Barbadians for the second straight week, you asked for the evidence. We have now given you the evidence. It is over to you, Prime Minister. It is over to you. And you felt that you could make mock sport at Dale Marshall. But Dale knew, as I knew, that we were involved in a solemn process. Now, I want simply to say this before I come off of the PAC report. He talks about the 11-hour meeting as if that is sacrilege. The only thing sacrilegious about an 11-hour meeting is that them never stand in a meeting for 11 hours yet working. That meeting was a continuation of the meeting that started on the 9th of February, for which they had notice on the 6th of February. Dear PAC member, attached is the notice of the 42nd meeting of the Public Accounts Committee to be held on Friday, the 9th of February, 2018. This notice makes reference to a draft report which will be circulated shortly. The one draft report went on the 8th. The meeting took place on the 9th. The meeting was suspended. You know, it's a beautiful thing when you're close to everything that's happening. Last week in the estimates, every night, the Speaker never adjourned Parliament a day. He suspended. This sitting now stands suspended until 10 o'clock in the morning. You remember those words? When you suspend the meeting, it is the same meeting, so there's no new notice. But I want to make this point. When you listen to him, you would feel that this was a, hold tight. When you listen to him, you would feel that this was a meeting in Roebuck Street, correct? You mean to tell me that he forget, because he used to come and sit down and shake his head all the time. But when he spoke You know where we met? In the Senate chamber. How the Barbados Labour Party members get in the Senate chamber to do the people work? When we met, who was recording? The Hansard lady and the recorders. How we get the Hansard lady and the recorders to do BLP work? When we met, the marshal was there. How we get the marshal to come out and do BLP work? When we met, the independent senator appointed by the then Governor General, His Excellency Sir Elliot Belgrave, namely Senator John Watson, was present at every meeting. How we get Senator Watson to turn up and take part and ask questions and participate in the meeting if it was a BLP meeting. When we met, they provided lunch. The Barbados Labour Party didn't send by norms for food. They provided the lunch parliament. Every aspect of how Parliament functions was met. The only thing that did not function in that committee was the members of the Democratic Labour Party. And they, my friends, had the majority on the committee. Now, if you have the majority, you could have shut down and outvote the Labour Party at any time, not true? And they chose not to. You know why? Because people may talk and people may fling hands, but you see, the power of the written word does not change. And when the letters started to come down, tops, when the letters started to show who wrote what and who signed what, and when the files started to come, they could not run from that. So I say to you, the time shall come for that full meeting, but we are not ready for it yet. You need to get your chance to read the report. Read the report. And when you read it, and when you can not only answer some of the questions I asked here, you can even ask your own questions, then we shall discuss the findings and the recommendations of the report. I say simply that all that they wanted to do, and Donville knew it, could not have been done when I presented the report. It is only to be done when I move the adoption of the report. But I can only assume that he was anxious for the adoption of the report, and therefore he jumped in to have his 2 cents worth. Because he knew that the length of time left in this parliament means that it is highly unlikely that we can move any adoption of any report, because Frundell has already loitered beyond the 5th anniversary of the last election. And you know it. And I want to speak to that this evening too. But before I do that, you have to understand what is in their nature. Because the same week before, I asked 8 questions. You think I forget that I asked 8 questions? Remember, I told you nothing will distract me from our business. Do you believe that Barbados' economy or international reserves has all of a sudden recovered? Simply because the newspaper wants to find everything to put on the front page other than the condition of the country and the condition of the people? But we're not going to be distracted, because we understand, as Sandra and others put so eloquently here tonight, what it means for you. We understand the political gimmickry, Cynthia, that you will see the Attorney General open a police station tomorrow that is not finished. This is the only government I know that has groundbreakings before they're ready and opening ceremonies before they finish the work. You heard me talk earlier. You know, anything can be made to look pretty. But do you have the certificate of practical completion, Colin? Those are the questions that as a finance officer, you would be asking the company if you were working for the company with respect to an institution that is being opened and handed over. Can the contractor now be moved off of site and the police move in tomorrow night? If that cannot happen, why then is the opening ceremony being held tomorrow other than to make a puppy show? And let us go back, because you received a wonderful display from Chris Sinclair, pretending on the opening of the estimates, the Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan. This is the plan accepted by all. This is the plan that the private sector has said. This is the plan that the private sector has said is the greatest thing. This is the plan that the union has said is the greatest thing. They then say, where's the Labour Party plan? I always say, answer the 8 questions. The patient bleeding. But they didn't want to answer the 8 questions. Talk wrong, talk wrong, talk wrong, talk wrong, put up a plan. What did you get last week? The head of the private sector comes out first and says, but this is not a plan, this is a wish list, this is a to-do list. Can you believe that? But it wasn't only Sinclair that told us about the plan. It was none other than the Prime Minister. And when we come to these matters, we have to ask now, what really is being done in the name of the leadership of this country? But as if that were not enough, what happened then from the Barbados Workers' Union, who put out the most scathing press release with respect to the same plan, and to let you know that in fact, social partnership meeting that they had on the 11th of August that they broadcast, that Sinclair told you was such a wonderful thing. Could anybody in Barbados believe that there has not been a single social partnership meeting since the 11th of August last year? You understand that the patient's sick. The patient's sick. And none of the doctors who are required, whether the anesthetist, the doctor who in charge of looking after the heart, the doctor who in charge of making sure that other vital organs don't fail, none of the doctors come together and have a meeting since the 11th of August. And since the 11th of August, our international reserves have fallen more than $200 million, almost by 40%. Look, when I tell you that the 2013-2018 Parliament is over for the Barbados Labour Party, it is not about trying to make mock sport or to do things for other people. I have 11 colleagues in that parliament, and those 11 colleagues need to stay on the ground and do the work on behalf of the people, because we have urgent business to finish in this country. Sandra could only give the kind of speech that she gave in here tonight, and William could only give the kind of speech that he gave in here tonight, and Dale and Cynthia, if they were on the ground in touch with their constituents. Anthony Wood continues even though he is not running. And what matters, and this is why I say that the contrast between Cynthia, who is the gold standard of representation, and what happened with those ministers whose names you will find out when you read the report, is because it has to be about caring for people. When I see Ronald Toppin, you don't know this. Ronald Toppin, the week before Christmas, I live in his constituency. He, 11 o'clock at night, going to visit constituents coming up Wellgap, Cave Hill. That is a fact. That is a fact. I am telling you what is hearsay. And I am saying to you that the Barbados Labour Party has determined, look, at the appropriate time, we will tell you what we will do with this country and what we plan to do. I told you last week that I do not believe in going halfway down the wicket and getting stumped. Wrong captain, wrong batsman. I've also told you when we last met at annual conference the things that I stand for and will not stand for. And when I was doing this work, I didn't come to debase the work of the Public Accounts Committee by telling you what I had found, but it had an intrinsic and serious impact on me. And when I told you that we have to rid this country and to create a new level of governance, a new standard, it was because I saw what I saw in the rot of this government. And when I said to you that no minister shall sit in my cabinet without declaring their assets, I meant it because of what I saw with the rot in this government. And I go further, that not only will they have to declare their assets, but if any minister of the Barbados Labour Party, and when I get to tell you about what Frondel knew and when he knew and how he knew, and you will have to judge for yourself, that no, I do not have to wait on no Public Accounts Committee report for me to deal with the conduct of my ministers if my ministers behaved in a way that fell below what was acceptable conduct in this country. And furthermore, the party which I lead will have to determine whether those ministers can offer themselves for public representation again after they do that. Barbadians have had enough. Barbadians have had enough of this nonsense in government. Everywhere you go, people tell you they cannot take this level of rot. And when you recognize that the rot is causing people to suffer in the way in which they are suffering, Bajans are demanding action in this country, and we in the Barbados Labour Party have heard you, and we in the Barbados Labour Party shall fix it, and we in the Barbados Labour Party will give you a new standard of governance in this country. It is not right and it is not fair. And it must be that trust is sacred. The trust of the people is sacred. When I come to you and ask you for the honor of representing you, I saw Miss Chandler at the back. I got some of my constituents in here too, Cynthia, don't get tired. They're just short there in Jackson. And Jackman's exchange. I remember the days of Cynthia on the left, me up on the right. But when I come to you all and ask you for your vote, it is a sacred bond. And it is a bond where I say that in your name I shall act, and in your name I shall not do anything to offend decency or the precepts of transparency. And what bothers me is that we have now been reduced to the lowest common denominator by this Democratic Labour Party administration. I'm not going to get into this deal because there were good Democratic Labour Party governments in the past. There were good things that other DLP governments did. But Sandra told you tonight that you would have to work hard to be able to see what Don Valinis has achieved. And he better watch it because I am not ready for him yet. He ain't get past the rest. He ain't get past the rest. But I say to you that if he feels that his job is to be a call-in show moderator, we can sign a petition and arrange for him to do that. Because it is certainly not achieving for the small businesses of this country. It is certainly not ensuring that our revenue can be stabilized by having an international business sector that is growing. Rather than growing, he has presided over a blacklisting from the OECD on the international business sector and a black, now gray listing from the European Union with respect to the Fiscal Incentives Act, which we knew from as far back as 5 years ago would be an issue come 2016. And they did, like the sewage system, nothing. If you do nothing, things will explode. And that is all that has happened. And I say it is the same thing that has caused Jamaica to now say that they don't know whether they want to stay in the CARICOM single market and economy. Because nothing has happened in the CSME under the leadership of Frondell Stewart. Do you know that Barbados is in charge of the CSME? Do you know that nothing has happened in the last, God knows, almost 10 years? And certainly the last 7? Do you know that Jamaica has a report that now says that they may consider leaving the single market and the single economy? Well, I have a message for Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, tonight from this platform. I ask him to hold strain. Hold on, my brother. Hold on. And to our other brothers and sisters in CARICOM, within 3 months of being elected as the next government of this country, we will get the single market and economy going again. We will start to take the steps to let you know that we are not just in this because it is a framework or an agreement that we signed, but it is because we know it will make a meaningful difference to the people in St. Peter and the people in St. Philip and the people in St. Thomas and the people of St. Michael to be able to go in to other countries and to sell their services or to work as journalists or to work as artists or to work in whatever capacity, especially if you're not getting work at home. And we know that the people in Mandeville and the people in May Pen and the people in Montego Bay and the people in Chaguaramas and the people in Caroni and the people in Port of Spain and the people in Vieux Fort, the people all across the Caribbean can get a meaningful improvement in their lives. But you have to get the architecture right. A man is not going to move if you can't tell him what his wife or his children will happen to them. You have to know what will be the position with pension arrangements and other things. You don't make sense. If you set up a business here, you shouldn't have to go and file that business in every country again. There should be a certificate of mutual recognition that you can then move. It's not just the money, it's the opportunity cost. It's the legal fees, it's the other accounting fees. So that I say to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, hold strain. And to all who believe that Barbados has dropped the ball, we have, and we know that the Prime Minister we have has dropped the ball. But the truth is we know that we can turn it around and we can make things good again in this region and in this country. And you know, when we speak about the sewage system, it hurts me. Because up to today, again, in front of lanterns and out that side by KFC, in spite of the manholes being sealed down, the pressure is coming up and the water is coming up again. This country cannot take the loitering of Frondell Stewart and the Democratic Labour Party anymore. 21st of February. 5 years ago, on the 21st of February, we went to the polls. Everything now has the country on edge. You hear there's a meeting tomorrow morning at the Boundaries Commission for registering officers. Elections coming, elections coming. Gaston Brown called the elections last night in Antigua for March 21st. And Bajan saying, what going on? But you know, I told you last week that Keith Mitchell and Gaston Brown can call the election before the time because they have a record on which to bat. If you have runs on the board, Tops, you are the cricketer up the road there, one time. If you have runs on the board, you can go in the pavilion and declare. But when you do not have runs on the board, you play the fool day one, you play the fool day two, you play the fool day three, you play the fool year four, you play the fool year five, and now you're appealing for light. Well, no light can save you. No light can save you. The truth is that the next anniversary will be the dissolution of Parliament a week from tomorrow. I told you a couple weeks ago it was 5 in St. Lucie. Then it was 4. Then it was 3. Then it was 2. Now it is 1. I say to you, the difference with Antigua and the difference with Grenada is that they made their change already. And they brought in governments that could run and put runs on the board and have a record. And therefore, they are likely to see victory. But when these guys come and say, well, the government win again, they say they only win again because the change happened already. The change happened in Antigua and Grenada in the last 5 years. And what you, the Democratic Labour Party, are appealing to now is simply everything other than what you have done for the people of Barbados. We say enough is enough. And I say tonight to you as we leave, because God willing and subject to the permissions, we will meet the night before dissolution at Montgomery Pasture Tops next Sunday night, because we will usher in that dissolution of Parliament together as a people. And we will usher in what we hope will be the beginning of a new day coming, because this country deserves better. This country shall have better. And I say to you that you will only ask us, who next? We will next. And you will sing that song. You will sing that song, that weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Good night, and God bless you.